Steam tests all games, like Steam gives all games a relatively fair shot.
So can I convert as many people as quickly as possible to reinforce the signals to the algo that like, hey, this is something that you want to drive more and more and more and more to? Do you want to know the controversial thing?
This is a conversation with Cory Darby, an indie game business strategist who reached out to me with some interesting data. I was indeed intrigued by the data, but also by Cory's personality, because together with a business partner, he developed a successful incremental game with just 400 hours of time investment. That is wild.
35,000 copies sold, and it's over $100,000 it's made. Might be controversial because I've had other people say like, well, is that sleazy? Is that deceptive to the consumer? But may not want to hear it. I think a lot of the industry is going to shift from this purely passion, creativity, and more to this capitalist business driven. I guess I am the evil corporate capitalist who sees the divide and I'm like, I am going to be on the right side of the haves.
The interview I recorded with him is controversial. It's going to spark some discussions and it's going to haunt me for weeks to come. I hope you enjoy.
I've been playing around with some of the data across other indies that come to me typically since the game I had done, Click and Conquer, was very successful. And one day I had someone reach out and say, I don't know why my game failed. And I didn't know because I had looked through everything and it was like 1 hour before the call. I was like, I wonder what their first 72 hours kind of look like. And I had some comparison of other games I could compare to, but also this Click and Conquer game. And it was pretty shocking. It looked much more equal footing compared to the other games, I would say. Like there's pools. There's like a left pool on your axis. There's a right pool. There's a spot where I'd say like 90% of indies land in this middle.
Let us know, what exactly are you describing on the graph? What are the axes?
Yeah, exactly. So the axis would be like sales and visits. So how many people are viewing the store page versus how many purchases they got. So like the bottom left on my side at least is like, low visits, low sales, versus a top right would be high visits, high sales.
Basically, the interesting thing you noticed is that across multiple games that you have compared now, the visits in the first couple of days are always relatively similar, right?
Yeah, so it's something like they'll get between 30 to 60,000 visits, and typically half of that's driven by discovery queue. Now it's a small sampling. Like the games I publicly put on this graph are like 10 games. Behind the scenes, for people who didn't want to have their data exposed, it's another like 30, and it still holds true.
How do you have access to so many data points? Is this all just devs reaching out to you about their games, or?
Yeah, so word of mouth, and I do like 30-minute free consultation calls. So that gets a ton of people coming in. And then usually a part of that is, hey, I'd like to use the data without the name. Are you fine with that? Yep. But obviously some people aren't. So those aren't the ones on any of the graphs I produce. But I personally know where they fall. So it's all up here.
Views are always kind of similar-ish, but where they differ is in how well they convert to sales, right? That seems to be the differentiating factor in the first couple of days.
Absolutely. Like this is not, let's compare everything to Click and Conquer. It was just a single data point. But if we do the comparison, like we're talking in some cases 100 times the amount of sales. Even though you would say like the visits for Click and Conquer might be like 20% higher. So we expect like, 20 to 40% higher on the sales, but the sales are like 95% higher. We're talking like 35 sales versus 3,000 sales. And for context, this is eliminating everything else. Like Click and Conquer, for those who don't know, that game didn't have any YouTube or social coverage for the first 3 days. And that's particularly why I looked at 72 hours. It wasn't on popular upcoming or popular recently released. It had 2,800 wishlist when it launched. It didn't have anything unique about it.
It just converted very well. So Steam, I guess the theory we would basically derive from your observations would be Steam tests all games, like Steam gives all games a relatively fair shot, and views in the first couple of days are often very similar-ish for indie games. And then based on how your game performs, your game's either gonna go bigger and get more visibility from Steam, or Steam's just gonna be like, nah, there's better games to show, and then your visibility obviously dies down, right? So the observation is not that everybody gets the same amount of visibility forever, but it's more like Steam gives every game a relatively fair shot.
Yeah, so there's a couple caveats, like in the bottom left, if you can't basically secure 10 reviews in 24 hours, you're just going to be way less visits than everyone else.
Yep.
Because obviously discovery queue, you'll still get some traffic from discovery queue, but once you hit that like 10 review threshold, it just spikes way more. And then the very top right of that graph would be things like if you hit popular upcoming, your visits are just going to be disproportional to everyone else as well. But we get this little bucket in the middle here, and that's where pretty much everyone falls in. If you've got your 10 reviews in your first 24 hours and you weren't like popular up and coming, plus or minus about 20%. Now, obviously that sample, no one in there went viral. So again, that's why they're bucketed. But yeah, it seems like Valve does a good job of what I call the seed audience. Like I have a background in software for ad tech company, a pretty major player in the space. And we do very similar. Just like on YouTube, you're going to get a seed audience. And how well does that seed audience convert for like the click-through ratio, the watch time? And that's going to determine how much more you're going to get. I guess the thing is like, why do they convert so much better?
Yeah, that would be the follow-up question, right? Because being like, oh, the games that convert better, they get more visibility from Steam's. If you think about it, it's almost kind of a little bit of a common sense thing. If you think about it, you're like, duh, yeah, that's how the algorithm is supposed to work, right? If I were to write an algorithm like this, would probably look the same. I would like test the game, and if it does well, I would give it even more visibility. That's kind of makes sense. But it's still, firstly, it's still nice to see that that's how it works, that that's actually how it works, that it's actually like relatively fair-ish, right? Once you hit that minimum threshold. And yeah, but secondly, the question is, what do we do with this now? Like, how do we make sure that the game converts well? Why do you think your game, Click and Conquer, converted so well?
Not one individual thing, I would say, a combination. So I think there's three camps I see. It's like, can you market the game well? Okay. And then so I guess this is a how to market game camp. And then there's the Jonas camp, just make good game camp. And I think I'm somewhere in the other camp of both important, but how do we convey this on a page? Because the thing we're talking about here is you could have a not great game, and this doesn't matter in this equation. You could have a great game and still doesn't matter necessarily in this equation because they haven't played your game. It's only what you can convey to the player watching. It's the perception of, is this good game? And good value is the other thing I should say. So it's like maximize the store page, the trailer as good as possible. The pricing should be a good cost versus value for the consumer, not what you think it's worth. Like, oh, I put 1,000 hours in, it's definitely worth $15. It's like, if I put this in front of the consumer, do they feel like it's worth $15? And if it's no, then they're unlikely to convert. So Click and Conquer, like I had gone and looked at all the similar games and we priced it even below what we thought we could get away with. Like we did a 40% discount at launch, which maybe that's controversial in itself there. We did maximum time, maximum discount. So minus 40% off for 2 weeks. Some of that is like psychological, like trying to convey to the consumer it's a great deal. Just like retail, 40% off looks like a good deal. You're like, ooh, wow, purchase now. I don't want people clicking the wish list and coming and buying it later. I would much prefer the immediate. My whole mantra in this is like shortest amount of time, biggest impact. So can I convert as many people as quickly as possible to reinforce the signals to the algo that like, hey, this is something that you want to drive more and more and more and more to, because, you know, obviously after 72 hours, you want to know what your long tail is on your sales and things like that.
Interesting, because that's the same thing Philomena told me what one of her biggest regrets with the 1.0 launch of the Wandering Village was, where she was like, we had so many wish lists, we should have launched with a way higher discount, right? So it's interesting that you kind of share that idea.
And we had baked it in. Like, honestly, you can work back. Like, okay, just base price your game with the 40% discount already factored in. So you're not pulling money off the table for no reason. Like, if you intended to price the game for, I don't know, $5, and you're like, oh, but 40% is going to really hurt. I'm not going to make like anything. Well, take whatever number you want, $5, add in the 40% discount, and start your base price that. There's no disadvantage on Steam to decreasing the price. There's no cooldown period. You can decrease the price of your game at any point with no cooldown. If you try to increase the price, you take a 30-day penalty where you can no longer do discounts for 30 days.
But your game, for example, the base price is only $4, something like that. So it's already very cheap, right?
Do you want to know the controversial thing?
Did you decrease the price after the discount, or what did you do?
Exactly, yes. So we did it where the price is higher to factor in the 40% discount. After that's done, we decrease the price because we're only going to be doing 20% discounting. The people who originally bought the game with 40% off, they still got a better deal than the new base price minus 20%. But I was aiming for this retail psychological, oh my goodness, the game's off 40%. And that is why the game price is there. You can see it on Steam DB. I've never hidden this. We've never hidden this. It might be controversial because I've had other people say like, well, is that sleazy? Is that deceptive to the consumer? But the way I've justified it is like the original buyer still got a better price than the current discount. And everyone else is going to discount the game eventually. Like eventually the price is going to be lower across all of our games than the original group. But
to be honest, I'm kind of in the blame the rules, not the player camps. I'm like, if Steam allows it, then you shouldn't be surprised if people do it. Usually Steam, if they find like these exploits, they usually fix them, right? If that's something that they don't want, they'll fix it.
Yeah.
We'll see if they do that or not.
Well, I might be the reason why, if everyone's doing it. It's not a problem if one person's doing it. But and the reason to why we did it was I knew the market wouldn't bear that base price. Like they would pay whatever it was minus 40%. It was in the sweet spot for these incremental games and where other incremental games fell. But if I left it at that, it was way too high for the amount of other popular games and the quality of those games and what we'd be asking for. It would just be unreasonable. The consumer would just not justify. It's also a very short game. It's only 2 hours of playtime. So, you have to have a game that's price proportional to what they're getting out of it.
I think Landfall did that with one of their games where the game was entirely free for the first day, right? They did like a 100% discount. Have you heard of that story?
I have not.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have too many details, but I think they had similar thinking where it was just like, let's get as many people as possible in the first day. We'll basically give the game away for completely free, and they will create so much buzz that we'll still get a very, very good tail after that. And in that case, it also worked out very, very well. And I think Steam has since already fixed that exploit, because other devs were like, oh, we want to do that as well. And Steam was already like, no. This is not a thing that's gonna happen regularly on this platform. So this is not a thing anymore, but still interesting to see.
You're always looking for the tactics, right? And a lot of what we're talking about here is like, this isn't going to make or break a lot of indie games. This is more like, oh, can I min-max to get more out of it? I mean, I guess if you overly price your game, and I have case studies on my side to show this, like you can essentially kill your game. A game that normally would have did decent, but you have the price like 2 times what consumers are willing to pay with like a 40% refund rate. And it just kills out the game. Like less people are going to buy. The signal to the algo is, okay, less purchases, probably not good game. Even if the game is fun, it's just you're indicating the signals to the algo. One of the many signals would be, hey, there's not a lot of purchases. It probably means the game is not that great, or the Steam page is not converting, yada, yada.
Right. So the price being too high can definitely kill your game, but like these special tactics of, is it like 20% or 40% discount or whatever, it's not gonna kill your game most likely, right?
See, I don't know, because I can't go back for Click and Conquer and been like, well, would it have done as well with only a 10% discount?
I think it would have. Honestly, I think it would have done okay, because I can see that your store page is very well optimized, and like my personal gut feeling would be that it would have done okay. But you're right, we can't know for sure.
And I've had the argument, well, why don't we A/B test it on other games? But you can't, because there's so many other variables. The only true A/B would be Valve itself being able to do this, because you would have to get two near identical consumers of purchase power, both show them different pricing and different, exact same pages, different pricing, and then have a big enough sample size to actually see, hey, does it impact or not? A different game is all new, different variables, different trailer, different tags, different audience, different meta too. Like, you can't just say, oh, 10% on this game, 40% on this game, let's see. The only way to truly do that A/B would be at the platform level, and Valve doesn't give us those tools. So
you think we're slowly turning into like the mobile market, where games are becoming cheaper and cheaper? Like, we can see these incremental games very often. They go like for a couple of bucks, right? And the trend seems to be going downwards. So games are getting cheaper, discounts are getting higher. Do you have any idea where that is headed, or do you think it's gonna stabilize, or what's your take?
Particularly for the incremental games, I just think the time you get out of those games, of like pure novelty, pure enjoyment, is much more lower. And people see the market as easy money cash win. So there are more games entering that market. And doesn't help that there's a success story like Click and Conquer, and people see that and are like, you built a game in 400 hours and made how much? I'm going to do that. So, consumer has more choice and there's more variables. And now it's like, do I want to spend $9 for this incremental when I could buy two $4 incremental games? So I think that genre is currently kind of getting pulled down. I also think it's fair to the consumer. Like, if you're only going to get 2 to 3 hours of playtime, it would take a lot, at least for me, and I've played a lot of these, to be convinced to pay like $9 for the game. It would have to be like astronomically great on something. Like, I think of it as a radar. Like, artwork would have to be phenomenal, or the mechanic would have to be insanely new, or the content I'm getting out of the game and not feel like it's just like the same repetitive grind in incremental would have to also be good for me to justify that. Right now, a lot of these games are like average rounded out, and it's 2 to max maybe 4 hours of playtime, and it's like, okay, you're gonna be priced, at least in US dollars, probably something between $3 to $6. Then I don't think the global market is heading down. I don't know. Do you think there's just a global trend of price decreasing?
I mean, a little bit would be normal, right? Because games are getting easier and easier to make, and if something gets easier to make, then typically it does get a bit cheaper over time. So I think, yeah, sure, we'll see a little bit of that. But then, of course, there's also the fact that you're also constantly competing with the entire back catalog of Steam, where there are tons of really, really good games on Steam. And a lot of them are oftentimes on like 80, 90% discounts. And arguably that sometimes does make it a bit more difficult for new games to break through. But I think it's still totally possible. You just gotta come into the market with some new ideas and some stuff that hasn't been done before. Then I think it's actually still kind of fine.
I think there may be even a counterpoint to how far you can pull down the prices and discount. The example I could give is, and this person has it on their YouTube channel. I worked with Aramis, who has created a game called Chess Survivor, and it's been around, I think, 3.5 years. And he took the standard advice of like, just discount your price over time, yada yada. And there's truth to that, but he had gone to the point, I think, of the extreme where the game was so priced low that it was actually hurting sales. Because like, when I went in and looked, it's like, you're converting it better on sales and wish lists and making more money at a higher price point than where you are now. And I actually can't definitively say this, but I think consumers are looking at like whatever minus 80% discount and going, dead game, low quality. Like, it's so cheap that like, why would I buy it? Because we bumped the price back up, from let's say minus 80% to minus 60%, and it's selling more, even when you factor out festivals and content, because it's a 3-year-old game. There's not really a lot of new content on it. And it's like, look, I don't know if it's just perception, like this, people are willing to pay and they feel like they get a better value because the price is a little bit higher, versus a game that's like, $1. You're like, it's dead game, It's probably not great quality. So
yeah, I think it's pricing is very much a psychological thing, right? So if it's like 95% off, then you're like, why nobody's playing this anymore?
Just buying it, you're not going to get any updates, no patches. Like it's unmaintained. At least could be a perception of it.
But besides price, what else can you do to make your page convert better? What do you think?
I think it's underrated. And I worked with a game where I spotted this, is the tags. Everyone talks about like put the proper tags to your game, discoverability. You want people to be able to find your game based off the tags. You want them to be on store page and recognize the type of game from tags. Yes, all valid, all true. Please optimize. What I think misses is people don't pick the tags that work for Steam. They pick the tags they think match their game. And what I mean is, like, when you are in the tag builder, tag simulator, in the portal, whatever they call it, you should be looking at the games that are similar. Like, and if those aren't matching, like, as close as possible, that you could say, like, these are games that are like my players exactly, then it's not going to do well. Because I have a case study where a game launched, great trailer, a good publisher, subjectively amazing store page from my perspective, good GIFs, good description. I couldn't find anything. Even the tags make sense for the type of game. I can't say the game name, but what I'll say is it's actually similar to the Islander game that you made. So it's like this little cute, cozy, builder-esque game. And they're more like this game was Factorio and RimWorld. And I'm like, I from my perspective, I don't think there's a lot of overlap on those types of players. We're going from pretty hardcore, like you're destroying people and your little villagers dying, or full automation, to, hey, I got like an island and it's min-maxing building placement and making like a design of what I want it to look like. And what I saw was, hey, they got the same amount of traffic of visits from Discovery Queue, and their sales were very, very low, like, 1/100th what I would expect. And I think, like I said, that seed audience from Discovery Queue, we don't know. It's a black box. But if I go back to ad tech world where I would be building this, I'd say, well, you need some sort of starter audience. Isn't the ideal starter audience the ones that you're saying your game is similar to? Because you could do random, but again, you could get tons of false positives. But what random? Like the first 100 players that log onto Steam, there's a disproportional amount of players on Steam that are going to be, like, say, FPS because of CSGO. So that's not going to work well with these games. Ideally, we want people that we think would convert. And the way that, Valve can get that is, okay, what tags are placed in our game? You said it's similar to these games. I'm going to try and take that audience and show them your game. Oh, it didn't do well. Well, yeah, it didn't do well. It's RimWorld and Factorio, and you got like a cute, cozy island building game, and I don't think that audience is going to work. So
right. So seed audience means the audience that the algorithm tests out your game with, basically, right? And you want the seed audience to be as suitable for your game as possible, so that the algorithm gets better signals from that audience. That's the idea you're saying.
Yeah, you get, let's say, both of us, I don't know, we like Factorio, maybe. And now we're talking about this like cutesy cozy game that isn't ours. And it's recommended because it says, oh, this game's similar. We look at it and we go, no way, this is not a game I'd ever play. So we don't convert. So those first, like, let's say 72 hours look not great. Your sales are lower. So indie is like, no, tears, my game is not going to do well. And then what also hurts is you're signaling to the algo that, like, hey, this is either not a good game or the store page isn't doing well. Like, it doesn't care why. It's just like it's not converting to sales or wish list. And what it does is just good pullback traffic. It's just good clawback. Because it's saying, hey, I just gave you the most ideal audience you told me, and it's not converting. I don't care why. I just know I should send that traffic somewhere else on a game that does convert. So like you'll have some initial spike and then immediately this drop, because some wish lists will convert, obviously, that you have, and these are the more ideal audience. Some discovery overlap will, oh, you play Factorio, you also happen to play cozy games. But then you'll get this giant dip down and you'll pretty much never recover. Like outside of like sales and festivals, I don't want to say dead game, but dead game.
you like, my theory is essentially just make a great game, right? And what a very important part of my theory is what I call appeal. And I think this idea of appeal is very similar to what you're talking about. It's like when you come on a store page and you check out a couple of seconds from the trailer and you check out the screenshots, and you're just the game instantly connects with you and you're like, I want to play that. What do you think? What creates this kind of immediate connection? Because everybody's talking about it. I also like Philomena when she was like, how does she pick games she publishes? She's also talking about this. I need to feel this immediate connection with the game. How do you create this immediate connection with the player or with someone who sees your game? What do you think?
I would say I am probably the least game dev person that's been on this show.
Mhm.
So I consider myself not very skillful in this.
Mhm.
And I let the other smart people do it. So I am a person who says, what is already winning in the market? I go play that game and say, that was smart. That mechanic is good. That game loop is super game juiced. And then I go, I am going to build a game like that, but ABC differently with XYZ twist. So I don't want to be the one doing the market validation and try and find that appeal. I want someone else to find the appeal and let the market say, yes, it's an appealing game and it checks off the box. And I just want to use that as like a north guiding star, if that makes sense. I'm not a very creative individual.
Got it. While people like Renee are like, we're making 20 different prototypes and seeing which one does the best, you're like, you make the prototypes and I just cleverly pick the things that I think worked well.
Yeah, because I think it takes a certain type of individual to have that mindset to come up with good mechanics and novelty, particularly novelty, something that we haven't seen. And, I think I'm a productive person and I can spot it. I think I'm good at spotting it once I play it and see it. I think a lot of people are. But to come up with the concept in my head or purely in my head or even prototyping, like I know you've talked about prototyping with like gray boxes, minimal art, but I really, really struggle with this. Like if I take Click and Conquer and we strip out the assets and strip out the music and go back to like the core game mechanic, I don't think I would say it's a fun game. Like I would really have a hard time envisioning how fun it is. But once I add in all the things, like I can get there. Click and Conquer is inspired by a game called Dixium. And that's how we create that game. So, the next game that me and Sakas are working on is based off of another game. Like we are very much like you said, let the really good creative people go do it. And then we just find something that we didn't like or could enhance. And we're like, okay, we're going to be this vertical slice of that game, but with this different thing. So.
Yeah, the thing with the gray box prototypes is that almost anything can become fun when you polish it enough and when you play test it and iterate it a bit. So I'm slowly converting to the camp where I'm like, making the game fun isn't maybe even necessarily the biggest problem. It's like, obviously for newcomers and for like beginners, making a fun game is still quite a challenge. But for somebody who's been making games for a couple of years and knows how to polish and knows how to play test and iterate, making a fun game isn't really the main problem. The main problem is really, how do you make something appealing that connects immediately and that players immediately want to play when they see it. And a lot of that is, as you said, also about context and theming and so on, right? So for your game, you chose like a semi-realistic war theme. Is there a specific reason behind it, or where do you go with that?
It was way different than Dixium. And we had an asset pack that fit the theme. Me and Sakas are both not artists. And we had a time constraint. Like when you're the original plan was only 300 hours for everything. Like we're talking Steam page, trailer, development, QA, testing, balancing. It's not a lot of time. And neither of us are strong in art. So it was like, well, what itch assets do we have to save time? Oh, this one. It's got little soldiers and tanks. Oh, it's got a bomb. Okay, we're doing war theme. There was a pro, I guess no pro, but con to this was people thought we were like tapped into the news and making some controversial political statement. And it's like, neither of us even watch news. We didn't even know what was going on. We were just making a game around an asset pack. But yeah, people did not like that it was a bombing themed war game. So
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I can kind of understand that. I'm not the biggest fan of realistic war games, but I do have the intelligence to differentiate between game and reality. So I think in that regard, it's less of a problem for me. But I can see why it's maybe not some people's favorite theme. But then on the other side, for some people, they really like that kind of stuff. So fair enough.
There was no statement in the game or story too. Like we don't even say that you're the good or bad people. It's actually up to the player to determine whatever they want. Like, and you're only bombing soldiers and tanks. Like there are no civilians in the game. It's it's up to the player to imagine whatever story they want.
Yeah, I mean, and also these war games have been around for a long time. There are tons and tons of war games. And as
I
far
wish
as I
we'd pick something now, like different looking back now? Sure, yeah. But
would you?
Yeah, because in the middle of development, I don't remember where. Maybe it was like level design book or something. And I remember reading that Space Invaders, it used to be a similar game when it first got prototyped. I think it was you either bombed cities or bombed villages or something like this, or like you shot villages or something like this, or you shot people, I think it was. And they said that they thought that would be like over the line and people wouldn't resonate with the game. And that's why you shoot these like alien looking ships that don't connect to anything. And I read that and I thought we should probably take like, a guiding principle from that. But we were already 80% into the game. And it's like, do we go back and rip it out? And we didn't even think the game would be that popular. Like we didn't think it would be this as successful as it was. So it was like, let's just ship it. We're already invested. We're already too far. Maybe with sunken ship fallacy, but we just committed and doubled down.
So in terms of gameplay, Click and Conquer is pretty straightforward, or what? How exactly does it play?
It's only one button, literally left click. There's no keyboard shenanigans at all. There's no WASD. There's no shift, alt, control. You literally left click. You're given a map with clouds on it, and you drop the bomb, and you either hit the target or you didn't hit the target, kind of like a minesweeper. And the bombs you upgrade, they get a reveal radius, so you can see more of the map to actually. And you upgrade these. There's a prestige. Those are really all the game. Behind the scenes, and what I think I want to cling on one of the statements you said about this peel, and we're talking about making a good game. And like peel, I always associate to like the perception. It's like you can see something that you desire. I don't know, a car. Wow, it looks so great. You get the car, you get in the car, you drive it, and you realize car not good. And the appeal for me is like the store. What is the perception, or what can you convey to the end user that looks and tells a story? And kind of actually a trailer, you can tune it to be like quicker pace than your actual game. And then people are interested. Like, I'm not saying deceive the user, but I'm saying you can present all the highlights. Then you get in the actual game, and is the mechanic fun? Yes, make a good game, as you're saying. The other piece that we really tuned in on Click and Conquer is the pacing correct? Is there novelty? Like, I had done the analysis. I'd gone to like games like Balatcher and literally Excel sheeted out like how many times am I clicking? When am I clicking? What's the time between each reward? And got it down to basically like, okay, every 30 seconds, the player has to be presented with a choice that they're making some decision. They need to be doing an action at least every 5 seconds. And there needs to be like a core new introduced mechanic or twist to a mechanic every 6 minutes. And like, if you want to build a further game for Click and Conquer, we knew like every 60, 80 minutes, you have to introduce something that's entirely new. Maybe even socially break the contract of how the players used to playing the game. But at least for us, that's kind of what we based around. So.
Okay, and this is based on the analysis of different games. So you kind of checked out how are other successful games doing it, and then you derived some rules of thumb from those, essentially.
That, and just like playing it through ourselves, always tracking exactly where, like I got a foot pedal. So I record myself playing the game. Whenever I put down my foot, it marks on like OBS recording a disengaged moment. And then I go and look exactly where does that happen? Where was the last reward? Where was the last interaction? How long was that? Why do I feel this way? Okay, it takes us 9 minutes to get here. It's a slump in the game. It feels like a grind. Okay, we got to tighten it more. And just repeating. Like, yes, the other games gave us a idea of where we should fall, and we went through that. But then we're just playing our own game going, is there any spot, or getting other people play it, any spot where you felt like it just kind of got slow, or where would you close out on the game? Right around third level of XYZ, I'm not getting new stuff. Okay, we just need to decrease the time when you get that new stuff. It was very maybe light data driven. Like, I don't know if many people are doing it this way, and they're just like, they're more creative and they build a game of how they want to build, but I'm all about like the Excel sheets and like, where are people dropping off, where they're disengaged, like, where do they click less, where do they take longer to put their like mouse onto the action they're supposed to do, because that could be a sign of boredom. So yeah, maybe it's different. I don't know, Jonas. Are you ever building games this way?
This is definitely one method of playtesting that I haven't seen before. So I'm certainly intrigued. Like, you record yourself playing the game and you have a pedal that you press when you notice that you're disengaged.
Yes.
And then you analyze like your own playtest video and are like,
it goes even deeper than this.
Okay.
So I wrote a tool so that it cuts out all the spots that the pedal isn't pressed down, so that I can get these minimum feedback clips. Because when I hold down the pedal, I usually talk like, I feel really bored. I don't like doing this. I didn't have anything in the last 5 minutes, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up with this super edited down. So the VOD might be an hour of me playing the game, but we only get 7 minutes of actually clip data. And then I can send that over to whoever I'm working with. So it's a time saver too. Like, I don't want them watching an hour of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
I want them watching just the direct feedback. And then they have like the full VOD, but also spots of only where. And then I also take that, I transcribe the audio, and then I run it through ChatGPT to give a summary of the feedback too. Like, I'm telling you, man, I'm building tools for this.
Okay, I'm intrigued because when it comes to some things, I'm starting to like experiment with similar approaches. For example, this podcast is also very much automatically edited. Not like fully by AI, but just like simple Python automations and just automatically cutting between speakers, editing out silence, and then I only go in for the refinement. Final cut is essentially. I think there's a lot of power in automations, especially if you mix it with like these new possibilities that AI gives you now, right?
Absolutely, because maybe this is also unique, or I just don't know. Like, I will ship 7 more games, probably, let's say 4 to 7 by June. And the reason is I do collaborations with other people. So I come in, okay, 80% of the project you, 20% me. And that 20% will be like balancing, pacing, testing. Maybe there's some development or UI stuff. And the moment you start working with more than like 2 people, you start realizing common problems. And you start realizing, okay, I can't scale to do this across 6 people. I just need to build the tools to like simplify. Even the example there where I cut an hour down to 6 minutes of direct feedback, that means the people I'm working with, they don't spend an hour watching a VOD to get like feedback from me through the playtest. They're spending 6 minutes, exactly what they need. It's also helpful for me to have the data so that when we're talking, they're like, didn't you say something about that level in the past? It's all transcribed, so I can just search through everything. Yeah, here it is. Here's the VOD. Where exactly did I struggle when I said I didn't understand the UI? Like, it creates this archive of progression that we can go back and look. I built a generic skill tree editor for all these incremental games that I'm working with so that I can go in my editor, build out the tree how I want, and have no concept of the game, and then pass along the JSON, and they just load in the JSON, and there's their entire skill tree. And that means they can build the game, and I can build the skill tree. And it's interesting because like it separates out, like, you just build your game, and I just build out the pacing and like the balancement of it. This has been interesting. But
how
again,
do you start so many projects with different developers? Do they
oh
reach
my
out to you, or do you start these projects yourself?
I would say Sockhouse and I, because we've done it in our game, it was obvious we should continue this. We work together, but all the other ones are just either they've seen me, or it's word of mouth, or they reached out to like Sockhouse about Click and Conquer, or like Aramis. It was after being on that podcast, but also mentioning him like, hey, I'm really interested in the data of your games. Can we review the games? And then just talking back and forth and, finding a sweet spot where for him, he was like, I just want to build a game. And what that meant to him was like the polish and the mechanic and like features. And he's like, I don't want to do all this super tuning, balance, and, cost economy and making sure the player's always engaged. And I'm like, I love that stuff. That stuff is just like tuning. So we partnered, and that's when I realized, okay, I need to build an editor tool so we can separate out responsibilities. It's like I have my own Godot application that's just tree building, and he's got his game, and I export JSON and like load in this and just build the tree from that. And it's very convenient, actually. It makes like I don't have to worry about the project and how it's evolving. He doesn't have to worry about any of the tree stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so are you working on a bunch of different incremental games, basically, or are there different types of games you're working on right now?
I'd say most are incremental, but there is another that's a roguelike, like Balatro game. And then with one of them, we've talked about doing a simulator game because they're convinced that like that genre is just, overpowered. Like in their mind, they're like, if you build simulation game like these grocery store simulators, it's just going to do well. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think that is a trending genre still. But they range. They range, and it's interesting working with people like different personalities, different work types, different ideas, different approaches. I kind of feel a bit maybe spoiled is the right word, because it's easier for me to spot like not trends maybe, but like commonalities. Like once I've worked with more than two people, I start realizing like, oh, a lot of people spend too much time on whatever, like let's say QA, like the quality assurance part. And that was obvious to me. In your own bubble, if you ask them, they're like, it's not that crazy amount of time. It's not that bad. But when you start working with more and more people, you realize, okay, there's a better way. There's got to be a tool, or we could streamline this. Or why is this person able to do their testing in like 1/10 the time compared to other people? What are you doing? Oh, they have like a makeshift tool that they're using. Even I've started building a tool so every time we play the game, build the game, it plays a basic version of the game to ensure like all the UI elements actually work on clicking, that you can actually interact with the tree, and we didn't introduce any regressions or any bugs. So I don't know. I think this is stuff like once you start working with more than one person, you're just realizing like tools are the way to go.
Yeah, and you oftentimes think tools are not worth it for just one game, but like even for individual games, like whenever I made some tools for my games, I've never really regretted that. I was always like, yeah, that was a good decision. And I have often regretted not making tools earlier. Like best example for this is, for example, the level editor for Will You Snail. I made that after I made the main game, and I was like, oh, damn, this would have been so useful for making the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The skill tree editor at this point has already probably saved me about 70 hours. It took me maybe 25, 30 hours to build. And just in this one game, it's already probably, if I guessed, 70 hours saved time. Now, I think the issue is people will fall in love with their tool and they'll build the tool like a game. Like, oh, I'll add more features. I'll make it more polished. Oh, it could be more streamlined. Like my editor tool doesn't even have a UI to select like different painting modes. It's just keyboard keys that I've memorized. Why? Because I'm the only person who has to interact with it. It doesn't need to be refined like a game. Even though I know it'd probably be better to have a UI on it with like, hey, this is a race mode. This is painting mode. This is move mode for the tiles. No. It's like Q, W, E, R, T, I, F, and S. Like those are the keys. And what do they do? Doesn't matter. Only I need to know.
Yep. Yeah, the level editor for my new game Kobako is kind of the same. It's like the entire keyboard does, like, every button does something, and I'm like, I'll never have to document this. I'll never build a visual editor for this. But like for myself, it's super nice because I can build levels super quickly just by using all of the buttons on my keyboard, basically. Yeah, I see that. Switching topics a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you in general think about these trend waves that we see in indie games? Like the three main waves I can kind of observe at the moment are incremental games. Everybody's like, oh, they seem to be easy to make and they seem to be profitable. Let's make incremental games. The other one is friend slop. Horrible name for a genre, but it's like apparently what we settled on. Like games that you play with your friends. Make like for
like
funny moments and so on. Peak, exactly. And as you mentioned, also these shop simulator games. I think that's probably another one of the waves we're currently in. Like, how do you think about these trends? I assume you're like write them while they're there, or like what's your strategy? Do you try to catch them early? Do you try to write them? What do you think about those?
So I talked about this in another podcast, but like we did pick Click and Conquer because I got in all the games from scraping Steam, plotted it out, and kind of realized, okay, once a game peaks, total games released, by peak is what I mean, you got about 2 years after that to maintain the success of having 1,000+ review game. It's not impossible, of course not. There's still 1,000+ review games, even 10 years after it's peaked on, top number of games released for it. It just seems to become harder, which, my instinct is that makes sense. Like consumers have determined what has won. Once you say like incremental game, people list off key games they will recommend. So it just becomes a little bit harder to get in there. They already have a lot of choice selection. Those games are discounted probably more, so now it's even more attractive. For me, me and Stockhouse picked Click and Conquer because what we spotted was incrementals seemed to be on an uprise when we looked at it. They hadn't peaked yet, and we thought, okay, we will start now, and we got 2 years. And we think we could do maybe 2-3 games in that time and ride this wave.
Can you actually see these waves in the data? Like, can you actually just, I don't know, plot out all of the incremental games and see like curve going up, or how did you do that?
Yeah, that's what we did. So it's harder to see the up and coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll have flat, and like you can't really tell if that's just a 1 year little bump or is a good dip. But we would look for like, okay, 1 to 2 years kind of like more than like 25 to 50% growth on the number released. So let's say it was 10, all of a sudden now it's 15, the next year all of a sudden it's 30. It's like, okay, we probably have started on some sort of like momentum. And when you think of it from development, it kind of makes sense. It's like you have a game that comes out that's either novel, insane artwork, a new mechanic, and that game comes out, and then you have people who are like, I want to build a game like that. But it's going to take them time. So let's say, 8 months to 2 years. So then you see the second bump, and then people start hearing success stories. Oh, they made a game like this game, and I want to be on that. Okay, eventually you get saturation, and then you dip down.
There's a time window, like there's maybe one thought leader type game that like sparks a new trend, and then that starts this waves of not copycats but devs who are inspired by this and who are like, oh, this looks easy enough, I could make something like this.
Or even justification that there's a player base. Like I had never looked at these fun social games until all of a sudden, like I played Repo with friends, and then when Peak came out, it was like, oh, this is so obvious. Of course, like this is just like Repo, but not scary, and more like we have an objective of like a visual objective to do, and it's more casual, laid back, and funny, and like it just. And Repo wasn't even the first kicking off one of that. I can't even remember what it was called, but
there was Phasmophobia. There was also.
We're both blanking here.
I know exactly which game you mean. You probably just have to look in similar games for Repo. Lethal Company. You probably mean Lethal Company.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Lethal Company. So like as you can see, there in progression on those games, right? Like in terms of release and like building upon, like in my mind, I see those games as fairly similar, even though most players would say they're very different games. Yes, but like the core playing together mechanic and working together and how to work together and having a team objective and these micro objectives. Like, yeah. So when I plot this out, like I just see them, there are games that I think could do well in that I haven't seen a lot of momentum. So we haven't gone down that path. Like, I think trains, horses, and things with dwarfs, when I look at the data, they haven't really had this peak. They haven't quite got enough momentum. But recently I've noticed a lot more train themed games, either in the incremental space or even in building space. And I'm like, yeah, because no one's fulfilling that need, that experience. And, it's not that shocking that we'll probably see more once there's a successful thing, that people go, oh, trains sell. Oh, there's people on Steam that like trains and like themed things around trains. And they go, okay, what can I do with trains?
Damn
And
it.
they
So it's
build
not
that.
just not genres, it's just like all kinds of themes. People are like seeing what does well, and then can all kinds of mini waves essentially. Yeah.
What I should have said when I plotted it out is I plotted out by tags.
Quick question: how do you get that data? Where do you get that data from?
So I used to have like a machine learning site that had an older version, but now I just use, I think it's called GG Insights. Yeah, I use GG Insights. So they have a paid, I think it's like $50 a year, and every month they do the full dump in a JSON or CSV format.
For all Steam games.
Exactly, for all Steam games. And they're just doing the scraping probably behind the scene. Yeah. And I just don't want to maintain a scraper, and my time is just worth more than that. So it's like, here's $50 lifetime access. Okay, no, this is a no-brainer for me.
Bro, this the first purchase I'm gonna make after ending this interview. Like that's a really good tip. Yeah, I think that sounds totally worth it.
Yeah, like there are other spots that you can get the data publicly for anyone who's listening and don't want to pay the $50. But when you start manipulating and looking across all of Steam, it's like, is it up to date? I don't want a thing that got released 1 year ago that someone used for machine learning project and did do the scraping. I don't want a GitHub project that's like, it only works if you're doing it and running this, and only in certain things. Sometimes it breaks, and good luck. I just pay the $50, and it's up to that individual to maintain it. And so far they've done a great job, and actually I corresponded with them on email before with a bug, and they fixed it. So I don't want to say I'm recommending it, but I can say it works.
I mean, the thing is, of course, people are noticing these kind of trends anyway, like with the data or without, sort of, right? So it's like, but obviously it's very nice to have the data, and maybe that way you can spot the curves a bit earlier than everybody else.
Yeah, I think so. And I know you had Gavin from Choo Choo Charles on here, and he made a comment about concepts, and you don't want to be working on something when everyone's talking about it. And I think if it's obvious that it's a trend, like, I'm not saying it's too late. I'm saying like, maybe you want to find it before it's obvious to everyone, like, oh, of course these incremental games are doing well. Yeah, because now you've seen 30 of them out, and you're like, wow, another success story. I mean, it doesn't mean...
Yeah, sorry, I keep interrupting here with little thoughts. I mean, once the trends are really, really obvious, bigger players get into it as well, right? For example, once people realize that Survivor likes start doing really well, then all of a sudden you have like a bigger player like Deep Rock Galactic also making a Survivor-like game, and now like the market's already like very, very saturated. Now you're gonna, if you make a Survivors, like, now you're gonna have a very difficult time.
Not to say it's not possible, but like from my perspective, coming from like a corporate environment and enterprise software, it's like, why, like, it's not impossible, but why take on the additional risk? Like, you want to be early enough that you're not number one typically. Like, you can be, but being number one doesn't not mean that you get the most success. We've seen this time over time. Think about products you buy. Apple was not first in almost every category it's ever done. They didn't build the first laptop. They just built a very well-defined and refined laptop. The iPod, same thing. The iPhone, same thing. So, but you don't want to be so late that now you're just drowned out by competitors, because now you have to break through the noise. It's that just sweet spot,
Right. So, I mean, the later you are to the wave, the more creative you need to be to find your spot in that, right? It's not impossible, but if you're kind of late to the wave, then you probably need a more unique twist, or you need to like outcompete everybody in quality. It's just going to be a bit harder, but it's always possible. People once again say in the comments, like that they don't like all of this trend chasing, and you should just make what you want to make.
Yeah, you can, but I don't know if it's laziness is the right word, but like I don't want to have to fight an uphill battle. I would rather be walking down the hill, as a metaphor. So I want to pick an easier path. You can do that, build what you want. If that's what's going to drive you to finish the game, and that is the motivation, well, it's better to finish the game than never finish the game. So, okay, go that path. If that's not a factor of your motivation and you're just like, I don't care what I'm building, I'm like, well, why would you pick the thing that's probably going to be harder because now you have to come up with something unique because there's so many of them. Maybe you just look in a different space or combination of games. Like I've started looking at incremental skill tree kind of progression and going, where would that work in a game that's not seen it before? Like, what happens if I looked at like this slot machine gambly-esque Balatro games, but more skill tree based and more like you're going to eventually win, and less about just like was RNG gods on your side. Like, can I take this incremental? Like, I will hold your hand, and eventually you will be guaranteed to win because you have unlocked everything, which makes it like pretty much guarantee you're going to win. I don't know if that will work, but I haven't seen many people do it, so I'm looking for blending across.
I mean, genre mixing is something that people often warn about, and that is a bit like that. I also think is a bit dangerous, exactly because it can confuse both the algorithm as well as the audience a little bit. They're like, "Is this for me? Is it like only half for me? And if it's only half for me, then why don't I just buy something that's like entirely for me instead?"
I was gonna say, I think it's also who we're talking to. Like, when it's me and you, it's like, okay, you have enough successful hits, and I have a successful hit that I could go make a bet on something that maybe is not going to work out, and it's not going to be fundamentally going to like ruin my life, or I'm not going to be able to make rent because of it. But like, if you're just starting out and you're like betting the farm, betting the house, saying like, this is the bet, like, okay, maybe you don't want to go against conventional wisdom and be like, I'm going to take X genre and Y genre. It's never been done before, because it just increases the reward, but also the risk. And for me, when like Stockhouse and I started, it was always about this investment strategy mentality, which is like, we never want our loss function, how much we could lose, to ever be zero. But that caps what your potential gains are going to be. So we don't want one where our gains could be 100 times if it means we could go down to zero. We would much rather go for like the 3 times and have a 20% chance or a 20% loss, right? Like we never truly go down to zero, because it just gives us another attempt. Versus you do the big bet where you're like, yeah, but the payout could be another, whatever, Stardew Valley. Yeah, but your loss could also be complete zero. And you could be spending 2-3 years of your life, burn all your savings, and have a subjectively flop of a game, or a game that does not allow you financially to sustain this, and go, well, that was fun, but I guess I have to go get a job, and this is not going to happen again. Versus, you've got quite a few hits on your side that I'm sure you could take a bet for 8 months on a game, and it would not like end your career. Let's say it that way.
Sure. You made Click and Conquer in 400 hours, is I think what you said earlier. Is that 400 hours per person or across both of you, or how do you measure that?
Let's say 90% of it's Stockhouse, because he did all the development. Even though I'm a software developer, at that time, it was like he wanted to build this game. He had just come off another game. I was still working a corporate job. So I'm like, and I've been doing software for plus 15 years. And I was just tired. I just did not want to write code. I wanted to do something else. So I was all like, oh, this business side of things, strategy, Steam, let's go do that. Level design and pacing and balancing, QA, different. So 90% Stockhouse, like 10% me. I'd say there's another, let's say 50, 100 hours that was like non-game development. It was like me just tinkering around, like what's trending, what's not trending, what's what could we get away with doing? Does this idea look like it makes sense? Does this idea look like it makes sense? How long would it take us to build that game? 400 hours was like once we had set on we are building this game. That included the trailer, the Steam page, the game development, reaching out to the content creators, like everything. Then Stefan or Sockhouse, he had a full-time job. Like we were both, if you want to say, part-time on this. Like no one, it was like 15, 20 hours a week. When we had time, we started January of 2025 and the game released June 2025. So, what's that? 6 months of calendar time. And then hourly, because we tracked our hours, because I had this theory and we want to prove if it was even viable. So we tracked out all our hours. And we came in around just shy of 400.
So if we divide like 400 by 8 or something, then we would arrive at something like, if it were full work days, then would have been something like 50 days along the line. So it would have been 2 months or something like that for a full-time developer.
Yeah. I think that's why the space is like trending or becoming hot. It's not necessarily because like, ooh, crazy amounts of money. It's more like, okay, it's not a huge amount of time to get feedback. And, if the worst thing is I spend 2 months and then have to go back and whether either get a job or freelance or whatever your scenario is, it's not as bad as, okay, it's going to take 1-2 years of hunkering down 40 hours every week and I have to burn through my life savings to do it. It depends on where you live, but like some people, their severance will be almost 2 months if they lost their job and they're like, okay, I'm going to bet that and we'll see how it works. So True. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying examples.
But do you think this is the case for all genres, or is this specifically for this genre? Do you think it's always an advantage to make games in a relatively short amount of time, so that maybe once you, because if you follow this theory that you want to ride the wave, then maybe you can ride the wave more easily if you make your game quickly, or how do you think about that?
I don't think there's a disadvantage of being able to do it quicker if you're not sacrificing the quality and polish and all that. I don't think it's about the wave as so much more like, I think people should try and get a complete cycle through. Like even if you've done game jams, you've done 5 game jams, you never truly have gone through the process from A to Z, and you don't realize certain things. Like I've had plenty of people finally take the leap, say, okay, I'm next game and doing full release, and then realize like, wow, Steam polish or player polish portion of it is like 30 to 50% of the time. At least from my perspective, that's typically where it lands, and depends on what you define as polish. But like, let's say the balancing, the pacing, all the animations, all the refinement of the UI, polish. And you think, oh, it's not going to take me that long. It's going to take me 2 months. I've done jams before. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there and you realize it takes 4 months because half the time you've never actually truly accounted for at the end. Things like Steam achievements. Have you ever implemented that? No, because you were doing jam games. Okay. I think shorter allows people to actually go through the full cycle, and then you can come back for another one quicker with all the lessons too. Like, oh, I launched my game, but didn't understand how important a store page is. Yeah, but if you spend 2 years building your game, and the first time, like you get to complete that cycle is 2 years, and the next time is even 1 year, we're talking 3 years. 3 years just to have gone and reiterated the first full loop. And for me, the risk tolerance is just through the roof for that. Like I can't justify it in my model, like how I look at, is it too risky or not to do this? Like the 400 hours, like you said, 2 months, let's round up, 3.5 months. Okay. And you factor out holidays and time off and brainstorming, you're probably going to be able to squeeze out almost just 3 games a year. Now, can you do it in every genre? No, I do not think it's possible in every genre. Like, unless you really can find like a slimmed down vertical slice of each genre. Like, I don't know of a open world MMORPG that you're going to be able to fully build in 400 hours. Like, I've never seen it. If someone figures out how to do it, great. Maybe AI will get us there. So,
right.
Yeah.
But incrementals will eventually, of course, be saturated, I assume, for a while at least, right? So at that point, what should you do if you want to make a short project? Should you like find another trend to surf that's sort of in a similar scale, or do you just go back to making whatever then, or what do you do then?
Personally, I think I'm looking still at the trends. And like I said, even though, let's say, incremental's on a downtrend, I don't think it is yet. I don't think it's peaked. I still see each month it's breaking all-time highs. But let's say it has. Okay, what can I do, like I said, adjacent to this? Like, can I find something that's somewhat similar but different? Maybe there's a revamp on, like I said, I gave the example of this more like rogue-like experience Balatros, but I want to bring more of the incremental, I hold your hand and you're going to progress and go up and up and up. And I think something like that I could attain in this 400, 500 hour range. Me and Stockhouse had actually done a game jam called Poker Tower, and it was like a very, very basic Balatro, if we call it. There wasn't all the crazy Joker combination rule sets, but we did that in about 100, 110 hours. So I thought, okay, that seems viable. We could probably do something in there and try and find combinations of what we like in building these incremental games and bring it over. Like you said, there's a risk of mixing, and we'll see how the audience resonates. But the risk is also proportional to the time, and how successful the game needs to be is also tied to the amount of time. So my biggest risk there is like, we're talking 3-4 months. And, if these other games do very well, then it's not as big of a risk because I can fall back on how the other games do. Everyone's risk is going to be different and their situation's different. You're brand new in this and you don't have another game to fall back on, either the sales or you quit your job and you're doing this full time, then you're trying to look for the thing that's most likely to win. Or at least that would be my advice, is to minimize risk and look for the thing likely to win.
I guess you can always have a look at what's doing well and try to do some spin on that. But are there specific games where you're like, maybe it's not such a good idea to do that strategy, or do you think this is just something that's like always a good starting point? Other successful games?
Trend following, I don't think there's like I said, a negative. People might not enjoy it because it doesn't align to what they want to build, and fair enough. Then the advice there is, like I said, if that's going to be the motivating factor to finishing your game, then so be it. Do what you want to do. If it's a puzzle platformer-esque type of game, which, wisdom says do not do, because they just don't resonate well with the audience. They're hard to make content on, yada, yada. There's so many of them. But if that's what's going to get you to complete it, so be it. Because completing is better than not building a game at all. If you're trying to make this like sustainable career and you're willing to forego like just passion only driven, like I have to build this puzzle game because that's what drives me. Instead, you say, I'm open to building a game. I want to build games, and that's the driver. And yeah, I think looking at what's already doing well is a good spot. Also, you can immediately see like in the reviews what people are saying they wish they had. That's typically where I'm looking too. Like I grab all the reviews of the game I think I want to do, pass it through like sentiment analysis and ChatGPT to get an idea of like what's everyone complaining about and what did people really like. And
oh yeah, that's also probably a good use case for AI. Just feed in all of the reviews.
Yeah, because like I said, the market has spoken that they're willing to put their dollars towards that. And if I can find a twist or something that's, filling a need that's not being met by that game, I can give an actual really life example, because I'm not doing this game with anyone. And if someone wants to do it, they can do it. There is a game called Moonlighter. It's this RPG style game. You go into dungeons, you collect loot, you sell loot in said shop, you upgrade said shop in town. And they have a Moonlighter V2 coming out, or it is out, and I hate it. It's 3D. I don't know why it's 3D. I read the reviews. People are like, why is the game in 3D? They changed the entire shop mechanic. People are like, the old way was nice. Why didn't they just add more content to the game? Why do they introduce this new thing? I'm like, you have people saying that there's a want. You know what is great is people telling you their pain points who bought a game like the original, don't like the new one. There's this gap probably somewhere here that I'm not saying it's guaranteed success. I'm just saying that sounds better than just, I think I'm going to make a game. What idea? I don't know. I'm going to come up with something.
Right. So finding a community with existing pain points is also probably a very good starting point. You're right. That's sort of similar to what Philomena told me, because she was like, she had this theory that you should go into a genre that has a lot of reviews, but not so positive reviews. So you want to go into a genre that has a lot of mixed reviews or a lot of mostly positive reviews or something like that. You never want to go into a genre that has a lot of very positive reviews on their games.
I think that logically makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like opportunity.
I wonder if that's some analysis we could run on that Steam data to find the genres that have the most reviews but the worst ratings.
Absolutely. I'm thinking of the columns there, and it's definitely doable. And the only data that's I don't think really exposed well is like the reviews over time. So you'll just see how many reviews there are. Like you won't be able to see like, oh, the negative reviews used to be X, now they're Y. Each week it changed because maybe it got review bombed. Maybe it's after a content update. The game was actually all positive, but then people didn't like one component being changed.
Also, reviews tend to trend downwards a bit after launch because the less interested players come in, the people who buy it during a sale without reading the description come in, and they're disappointed more often. What would you describe yourself as? Are you a marketing person? Are you a games strategy person? What are you?
I don't know, Jonas. I don't know. I'm in this weird spot right now. I think I come from software background, went into game dev, but have always been drawn to the like operational business side. I ran a startup, so I've worn all hats. I guess I'm playing my own incremental game. I like numbers go burr. I like min maxing. That's what I like. I like being the person who can just min max regardless of what it is. If it's in the code making the game like feel better, tweening the animations and just tweaking the core mechanics, okay, so be it. If it's there diving into the, whatever Steamworks portal and trying to be like, why aren't we using this functionality? Why aren't we doing this? Like, oh, this is not even really documented anywhere. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out is I guess what I'm saying is I'm enjoying my time and I have fun and that's what matters at least.
Sure. Because, I mean, the feeling I sort of got from talking to you is that you're kind of a marketing person, but what threw me off is that you still care a lot about the experience of how the game feels, so much so to the point that you have this elaborate workflow for testing games and automating feedback and so on. So it's kind of, but I think I'm actually kind of on board with that, because the way marketing works, in my opinion, is mostly by making a great game. So to be like, if you were like, I'm a marketing person, and then you still care about all of these gameplay related things, in my opinion, that still totally checks out. So, but I don't know. We don't need a description. We just, as long as it's fun, it's fun. It's great to hear.
Yeah, and some of it's just a necessity, right? Like like the foot pedal, as much as you are kind of laughing at it, it's very efficient. Like it makes my life so easy. Like the problem is some games bind different functionality on the keyboard and mouse, so I can have the foot pedal be like a special function key that no one's going to be listening to. It's not going to accidentally close the game or open something, and then I can be playing the game with keyboard and mouse. And I don't play any racing simulators, so I never need my feet. So I just play the game, and I just hold down my foot, and I just talk out loud, and it works for me. I mean, I don't know. You said no one else is really doing it, so I guess it just works for me.
I haven't heard that one before. No. As like a professional min-maxer, what is your, let's just call you that, a professional min-maxer.
That will be the title right there, professional min-maxer.
What are your thoughts on the future of game development, in particular looking at what's coming with AI and so on?
So some of this will be biased from like a more software development perspective than purely just game design, or game development, I should say. I don't think either industry are prepared whatsoever to any level of the extent this will change. I can already even see it in my own workflows. Like the entire skill tree editor, I'd say 80% of it is me running multiple agents building that. And in that case, it didn't truly matter, because I think where AI has a lot of struggle is like making this cohesive, structurally sound thing that other people can work in very easily. It's kind of like once you go down this AI bucket, it's like it works for the AI. And if the AI is dealing with it, no problem. But once you want to start involving yourself, it's kind of like, ooh, there's friction. Now, obviously, someone's going to be in the comments, but you just don't have a good enough prompt. You're not running enough agents. You're not doing this new paradigm of like where you're acting as a peer reviewer and then the agents are proposing ideas. Okay, yes. But, that tool probably would have taken me 400 hours because it was dealing with things I had never done. It wasn't that I was incapable, but like I'm typically using Godot, and I don't spend a lot of time with like custom draw functions to draw out like dynamic grids and things like this, or panning and zooming a lot on, but still structurally keeping everything exactly where it should be relative to where it was. And like, I can open up the docs and read docs. Yeah, sure. But it would have taken me way more time versus like, I know kind of what I want, and I know enough software development that's like, okay, I have a good idea of like, hey, we're going to structure things this way. This is kind of what I'm looking for. What do you think? And it's like, oh yeah, Godot can do blah, blah, blah. You just need to override the draw method and do these. And don't worry about canvas sizing because I'm using this method. And it's like, okay, cool, great. Like that's exactly what I want. And it worked especially well for that because I don't care how sloppy it is. It's a tool for me. I'm not working with a team on it.
Yep.
But it saved at least 100 hours at least. The more these improve, like the more impact they will have. Even recently with like ChatGPT 5 and DeepSeek, I've been able to get these to produce like even UIs for me, which is where we used to struggle. Anything visually, it would just have no concept of being able to do at all. It'd like throw on some buttons and that's it. But now I can pretty much specify like, I want like a minimalist UI that looks stylish, and you should use like color theory to match out things. And all of a sudden I look and I'm like, ooh, that's like 80%. And the other 20% is me going in and tuning. And the time difference is like astronomical. I think that's what people don't realize is like, even if I have to spend, I don't know, we'll say 100 hours. So it produces 100 hours of work I'd have to normally do. And I have to spend 15, 20 hours refining it or tweaking it and the prompts and everything. Okay, I netted out 80 hours. And like, to me, that's just maybe insane. It's not the right word, but it is just light years ahead of what I thought it would be able to do.
Yeah, I think especially for tools development, it's so powerful, right? Because in the past, this calculation of, oh, does it really make sense to write a tool for this? Sometimes it's just faster to do the manual labor than to write the tool. This was oftentimes the problem in the past. But now I think this equation has shifted so much with AI, because creating the tools is so much faster and more efficient. So it's like almost always the correct decision to just create the tool now and to use the tool.
You talked about using it for the video. You didn't talk about using AI, but you talked about having a tool that did the video editing.
Well, that tool was written by AI, of course. Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't sure, but
like written by AI is not exactly the correct way to put it, because it's a very very big code base, a very big Python code base, and it's like ChatGPT could not have written that alone, but also I could not have written that alone. So it's like a human machine collaboration that would have not been possible with just one of the parties. At the moment, I have a feeling we're obviously shifting more and more towards it's gonna be able to do more and more alone. For example, I used to have this personal rule of thumb of like, you can have the AI write 300 lines of code and it will do a very low mistake rate usually. That was like my rule of thumb. And then if it's more than 300 lines, then I need to find a way to split it into multiple files or section things off. And now with GPT-5, I'm like, actually, it's more like 1,000 lines now. So it's like crazy. For programming, you can still very much feel the improvements, even though GPT-5 had a bit of a rough launch, of course. But for coding nowadays, it's absolutely insane sometimes what it spits out for me. It's like, holy hell. Sometimes I'm very impressed, yeah.
Oh yeah, the whole QA tooling is AI. Like with me just guiding, being like, okay, I wrote an OBS plugin that hijacks subtitles. So when I press on the foot pedal, it actually injects the subtitle for the time constraint of me holding the foot pedal. Then I wrote a tool in FFmpeg to interface with that, to pull out the subtitles, clip out where they are. It allows me to add a bunch of params like pre and post time from where I held the footprint, so that maybe like I released it too soon, so I can add an additional second. And like this would have taken me, I don't know, at least a day or two to redox, figure out where everything is, does it work? And instead it was like, I don't know, 2-3 hours. And I was like, cool, I got this whole tool, and like now it does exactly what I need it to do.
What does this mean if we extrapolate this into the future? But you said like the industry's not ready. Like what do you mean?
I don't know what will happen. I just see even the usage of everyday people is nowhere near what is it capable of. Example I can give you, my wife, she's learning Godot because she wants to build like this little cute cat game thing she has an idea for. And the way she works is she's very like, once she has a checklist, she's like zero motivation required. She's like, once she has a structure, she's just disciplined to it. But getting the structure is very hard for her to like not get like analysis paralysis. I like, you know what's great for that? I'm like, go get ChatGPT to just make you the checklist. And to her, like, it didn't even dawn on her. I'm like, you have this assistant that will basically do whatever you want with very little friction for like 80% correctness. And like, I know it's not the best example, but like people just don't even realize where it goes in their day to day and like how much it can be used for. Like product decisions, I don't even do myself anymore. I literally just give the URLs and like compare X and Y and Z, tell me which is the pros and cons, and do price comparison. And then I get like super short summary. Something that would take me normally an hour is like, 5 minutes, not even. I interact with so many people that's hard to keep up to date. So I actually wrote a Twitch monitor. So now like I get a summary of every VOD from a Twitch stream, what was said. So I'm up to date with each of these content creators and streamers, like, and it took me less than an hour of having ChatGPT like, okay, download the VOD. Oh, there's open source GitHub project for that it's aware of. Great, uses that. Here's the command to run. Okay, slice up the video, run Open Whisper translation or transcribe on it, produce a summary. Like normally I would have just never been up to date with those people and they probably would have died off on my follow list. But now the fact that I can get a summary of what they're doing and kind of keep, up to date, even though that sounds very scary, because like people should hear that and also have a moment of like surveillance and privacy concern. And I'm not one who's a big like privacy advocate, but I do think the path forward is like worrisome to some extent.
I mean, on a social level, there's like once again like a very different story, right? Because I mean, I'll have to make a video talking about this at some point as well, because there's like the example, just the one example that I like to give, for example, is we'll have AI that will over the duration of this podcast just analyze the reflections of my eyeball and will create a perfect 3D replica of my entire room, including very sharp resolution of everything that's in my room. We'll probably have that. Who knows? Maybe secret services have that kind of stuff already, right? It's like totally possible. And like all of these weird things that you even didn't even think would be possible, they'll suddenly become possible and will be very, very strange for privacy in particular. So I think, yeah, privacy. I don't I don't even know if it's going to be possible, honestly.
The barrier. There used to be a barrier of effort.
Yeah.
So even if the data was all collected, it was like, even though you don't want all the data to be collected, it was like, okay, who's actually go parse through and have all the context, and like, okay, unless the government has a reason to suspect something, that's probably when. But now it's like the effort is zero. Like it's literally, okay, you go grab an open whispered model and you can transcribe all data for all audio that's ever been recorded and saved and get a complete summary and easily search through the entire thing. That is where it changes, is the level of effort is no longer there. So on the good side is it reduces the effort for us to build tools. Bad side, everything you've ever had recorded somewhere is now easily digestible for anyone to ask anything about you, people you know. Well, that's the worst part is even if you have the greatest privacy, you're as weak as your weakest link. Like, let's say I am very secure and very minimalistic. I mean, I'm not on a podcast, let's be real. But let's say I was, then my wife communicates things or images of me elsewhere. Then, I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm saying like, you realize there's only a limit to what you can actually do because like, if I open up Slack and I write something about someone like, oh, Jonas and me just had this podcast, he said, blah, 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 enter. Even if you were very aware of your privacy, like now I've contributed something.
Sure.
Anyways, I don't want to be on the tinfoil hat podcast.
No, I just a very, very small tangent because we're not really here to discuss the social issues, even though they're very, very interesting. I'm more interested in extrapolating what's this gonna mean for game dev, right? Because it's like what is the next step after we have AI that does really good coding, and obviously it's already very useful for that. A lot of people could probably get a lot of benefit out of learning how that works correctly and how to use it in their workflow. But what do you think? What are the likely things that are gonna happen from here? Not that anybody can tell for sure. Let's just say one thing that's very likely is that these things are going to get better, even better at coding. Another thing that I can imagine that's going to happen at some point in the next couple of years that would be very, very high impact is if AI could become smart enough to operate a computer. So perform clicks, just use all of the software that we use, basically. I think that's probably one of the next things that's going to happen. And then the next step up of that would probably even be that it could also, for example, play an entire video game. And I think if that happens, that's the breaking point where we know that we're probably going to be out of a job soon. As soon as AI can play video games, it's probably not too far from making full-on video games without any humans in the loop. And maybe I'm the one with the tinfoil hat now, but do you sort of agree with that, or do you see something different? Like, where do you see where do you think things going?
I see it like that. I mean, I'm actively actually getting, the tools I'm writing to play a game. So I don't think I think each game is going to be different. The complexity is going to depend on the game. But like, okay, these incremental games where it's just like mostly clicking, it's like, okay, I can task the AI to use image recognition for like, hey, by the way, you want to click start button on each round. You want to click these asteroids. They look like this. And then collect and spend your points on whatever skill tree looks this color, which indicates it's unlocked. I mean, I'm not using it to necessarily just play a game for the sake of playing a game. I want to build a QA tool to make sure, like, when we produce something, the game still works. I think it will increase, and history kind of indicates this, the inequality gap. I think the people who have done well on Steam will do even more, like greater income, greater results, because they will have access to the best tools. They'll have access to spending the money for GPT Pro, whatever it is, $200 a month, which will give them an advantage ahead of everyone in terms of time. Even if that becomes eventually like the free tier, yeah, but if you have a model that is like, let's say 2 times better than the one everyone else is using on $20 a month or free, you're able to produce even more content or hopefully produce more content and of higher quality, hopefully, or it should be, and grab more of the market and make more money. And just now you can afford to pay somebody whose only job is to min-max your AI models, which should perform better. I think game dev will see a widening of the gap. And already it's pretty wide on like where people land as indies versus like, top tier games, but I think it'll get way worse.
I think for a lot of artists listening to this, what we're describing here sounds like very nightmarish, probably. So the imagination that the game dev job will essentially become about buying AI compute and managing that AI compute more efficiently than your competitors, right? That's sort of the thing you're describing here, is that game dev might develop in this direction a bit.
Now, on the optimistic front, I would say this. you make it more accessible to everyone. People who did not know development could potentially make a game now that actually in their head is a good game, and on like implementation is actually a good game, but they do not have the skill set or time or were willing to invest it to do it. You could get games that are extremely more tailored to players. You could get more accessibility. Like everyone's games are now always working for color blindness because it like you don't do anything. You're just like, well, we just import that module that got produced by the AI and now it's an accessible game. You could have AI allow games that maybe didn't have something like accessibility now become accessible because something's able to recognize and explain through what different things are on the screen for somebody who's impaired vision. Like there's I go back, history is a great example. We go back to the internet, right? There's good and there's bad. And what we hope is that the good nets out more than the bad. Sure. And yes, the internet was super disruptive and it changed people's jobs. It changed the way we work. You know, we see depression on the rise and social media anxiety and things like that. But like, I don't think it's fair. I think it'd be hard stance for someone to tell me like the internet is purely this evil, bad thing. And it was not worth having because it's connected us more than ever. The technology improvements, like, just the transportation of communication, even this wouldn't be possible. Like me and you normally very unlikely would ever have this conversation. You're all the way in, I think, Germany. I'm all the way in Canada. I'd have to like get on a plane, fly. We'd have to figure a coordination of time and when's available and all this. And it's not all gloom and doom. I think it's just easier. And at least for me, it's easier to spot the gloom and doom. I'm sure there are many people who see the optimistic light of like, it's going to make this more accessible for many people that have ideas that are great locked in their head.
But at the same time, what you say is that it's likely also going to be a bit of a winner wins more mechanic, right? Because if you have capital, you can potentially afford more compute.
That's what we see in the business market all the time, right? Industry starts, there is, let's say, 50 competitors in that space, and eventually you get down to like this 3 legger, the second tier and first tier winner.
So do you think because game dev is kind of such a newish discipline, we aren't quite there yet, where there are just like 2 or 3 big companies, or are these arts disciplines like by nature maybe a bit more fragmented?
I think what I can say, and this is a controversial hot take,
sure,
there is a reason to why I entered game dev when I entered game dev. I mean, I guess I am the evil corporate capitalist who sees the divide and I'm like, I am going to be on the right side of the haves. And I think now is the time to not be, left behind. And I think sadly, while we may not want to hear it, I think a lot of the industry is going to shift from this purely passion, creativity, and more to this capitalist business driven. Businesses are going to see more opportunity, move in more, and drive out a lot of solo indies is what I think, because they will have the money.
What we see at the moment is sort of that bigger companies like AAA seems to be struggling a bit, right? Do you think they're sort of not really like they almost seem like they're not really sure what's going on? Is it just like this current generation of AAA studios is gonna get washed away and somebody's new is gonna rise to the top, or are they just eventually gonna be like, here are all of our new AI games and everybody's gonna be like, yay? Because at the moment I can't really see that happening because I don't know. Honestly, their way of making games, it seems a bit too out of touch.
Yeah. I worked in an industry for a company that was number one in the space. I'll let listeners use their imagination. It sounds like Cornhub, and it's in the not safe for work space. So I worked for the parent company that runs all that sorts of stuff, and they were number one in that industry by a large margin. And I can confidently say that businesses like these AAA studios, you get comfortable and lazy. And, when you have something to lose, you don't think typically of innovation. You think of defensive maneuvers. And that's kills
exactly.
out a lot of innovation, a lot of change. You have execs at companies that got brought in because of their experience, and they have done it multiple times with that experience, and they will typically do the same playbook over and over. That works in a stable market and a predictable market. if you have a fragment or unpredictable or unstable change, massive innovation, pricing disruption, those playbooks no longer work. And, at that level, typically it's not your problem because you have a nice stock option plan, and you just need to make it to the exit. And why would you be the person to try and rock the boat and do something innovative or reckless, or could be seen reckless, and risk that? You're like, look, we're going to do the same thing we've done before, and we will produce still gains. And yeah, someone who doesn't have that experience and maybe even some naiveness will come in and be like, no, I'm going to build a company that's purely around AI or purely whatever, or this disruptive thing. And I'm not going to approach things like that. I'm not going to have big budgets. And I'm going to take, imagine you took the same budget as a AAA game, but instead of doing it for that, you just said, we're just going to go for the Steam market. We're going to run tons and tons of these smaller teams, invest in AI so they're even more productive, and we're just going to take that whole market. Is it worth it? I don't know. We'd have to look at how much money they could make out of Steam versus how much on AAA on all platforms and all that. Could they have teams to work that efficient? Could they reduce their communication overhead? Because as you increase these teams, you're increasing the communication and management, which I think is going to be disrupted with AI. Because like I said, when I used to work at a corporate environment, and back in January, I was starting to build tools that would summarize my meetings, summarize all my emails coming in. I was able to take like 10 times the amount of email influx as anyone because I wasn't reading every email. The agents were summarizing 90% of the email for me. So like people were just like, man, this guy is a beast. Yes, I was a beast, but I was also just smart and using tools to become like probably 5 to 10 times more efficient than any other worker. I don't know, Jonas. We'll see. I think someone will come and disrupt that whole space. I don't think it will be the AAAs. The only downside that market shows me is they also have the beauty of not needing to. If someone else comes, the Jonas and Cory up and coming people find a way. They show up and they go, you know what we have though? Capital. And here's a giant check. We buy you, and now we get you, and we didn't have to be first, and we didn't have to do the innovation. We just have to have the checkbook to know when you become a risk. And most people will sell. It's very, very rare that you have a founder who is either fortunate enough financially that they don't want to sell, or is naive yet, or egotistical, or just out there enough to just say, there's no amount of money. There's no amount of money. You couldn't buy it. You would have to kill me to take it.
Especially because if you don't sell, oftentimes the alternative is just, okay, we'll just give the check to somebody else and take you down that way, basically. So it's just more like, do you want to be part of it or not? Is more like the question you have at this point, right?
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting times ahead for game development and for everything, really. Yeah.
Could I ask you what are you changing and what are you doing with all this stuff, or are you doing anything?
I don't know. I'm playing it a bit defensively because I have noticed that for sure the timing is not entirely right, because also people hate AI. They really, really hate it, especially artists and especially like people who like art, and oftentimes also players who play indie games fall into this category, right? Indie game enjoyers are often people who enjoy art and supporting the work of individuals and so on. So I think I would be extremely careful about like using stuff like AI generated art, AI generated sounds. I would be extremely, extremely careful about that. And like, I have to be honest. I don't have anything against it in principle, but I'm listening to it because I am willing to follow what the people want, right? And at the moment, the message is very clear. People don't want an AI-generated art and sound and stuff. So as long as people don't want it, I'm not going to do it. Very simple. But for code, it's different, right? For code, I don't know why it's different for code, but for code, people are a lot more accepting and definitely going to use it for that if I can, right? And there are also, as you mentioned, a lot of workflow and tool things that become possible now, and I find them very interesting. I pay pay very close attention to the opportunities there. I'm constantly thinking about tools I could build that support me. Also, I think weird things like writing your own game engine or your own framework for games, it becomes more and more attractive the more time passes, because having a custom ecosystem, custom tools for your game can be very useful for a lot of different circumstances. It can be very tailored to how you like to work and so on. But at the moment, like writing an own engine for your game, it's not worth it. But I can see it becoming more and more worth it as it gets easier and easier. It's like you just tell your group of AI agents, hey, I need an engine that supports this and that to make my game, and then wait a week or something and they write a custom engine for you. I can see all of that. And as mentioned, I think the main breaking point for when will AI be able to make full video games, I think the main bottleneck for that is AI being able to playtest the games.
So I'm the evil one making that move forward.
It'll happen for some games. It'll happen sooner than for others, right? But as soon as AI can playtest the games that it makes, the loop closes, right? And it's like it can feed itself with feedback, and then it can playtest, and then it can improve, and it can playtest, and then the loop is closed. But as long as it can't playtest the games in a way that a human would playtest, we're safe. And I think luckily, the good news is I think that'll be another while. I think it'll take quite a bit more time till we have AI that is universal enough to playtest any game that you put in front of it. It can already give good feedback. Like people, like I did a video about this in the past, and people were like, "Yeah, but AI can't know what a human would do or what a human would think." And like, yeah, of course it can. What it can't do is properly play the game. But like, if you give it a series of screenshots, it can perfectly tell what's going on. It can perfectly say, "Oh my God, this." Like, the user was stuck here for a long time. You should probably do something about this. Like, that part is already working, right? That's not the problem. Problem
also,
is yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say it's also an incredible sounding board. Like, I present information to it and have it like find counterpoints, counter argument, different perspectives, like things that I would normally have like confirmation bias to, and not be aware of. Also I'd say like 80% of expertise in something, enough for me, like color theory. Like one of the games I was working on has these asteroids that are different colors, and I never felt like the game popped out that much. And the person I was working with just went to ChatGPT and was like, "Okay, these two colors I definitely want to keep. I like these, this background and this foreground color, and these other colors I have, use color theory and tell me what they probably should be." And it came back with much more brighter saturated colors, and we put them in, and we're like, yeah, that does look better. Like, holy, I mean, maybe it's placebo, like because you think, oh, it's more, it's better than your information. It made a choice, and you're now have this placebo thinking it's just gonna be better. But so far, we showed other people, and they say the same thing. Like, oh, the game experience just feels richer. It's like all we did was just change the colors, and I guess color theory. And looking back at that, like, you can ask why. And it's like, oh, the colors I chose are naturally brighter, like fruits that like human eyes are drawn to. And you're like, oh, once you hear it, it makes sense. Like, I would never thought of that myself, even though it seems so duh. But I don't have a 4-year bachelor's in, I don't even know what would be related to that, but color theory, whatever. So being able to just have a sounding board, and you're still the gatekeeper, right? Still checking and confirming, but not having to go in and play around with RBGs and be like, okay, I got one, I think, but does that work with everything else?
Yeah, controversial topic. I don't know, what do we say to calm the people who are mad at us now? like what a soulless way to make games? What do you think? What for you is the soul or the purpose in making art and games?
I'm just gonna make them angrier. I am the soulless corporate capitalist that is like, yes, AI.
So, I see. But I mean, to be fair, you're following your kind of fun, right? You do what you find enjoyable, and that kind of min-maxing is what you find enjoyable. That is the art for you. You could say in a way, maybe.
Exactly.
Right?
Professional min-maxer. I think you nailed it.
Okay, I see. Well, I mean, what I would add maybe is, as you can see with these podcasts, there are a lot of different ways to make games and lots of different approaches. And what's always important is that you find your own way and what works for you, right?
Yep.
Would you +1 that?
Yeah, I will +1 that. I will click on it. Okay. Add more.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Got very interesting there in the end as well.